Well, hello, hello. Episode number 8. We're getting rolling here on the Best Coast Sports Connection. Andy Bishop with Brian Vilvin, Thomas Conroy. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
How's it going, fellas?
It's going great.
Yeah. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, heading into the weekend.
Yep.
I'm finally at peace in my life with the NFL starting.
Can't believe it's already here. Feels like it was just the beginning of summer.
I know, right?
Now here we are, and we're at the beginning of football season.
Heading into the fall.
Yep.
First game of the NFL season last night. Packers, Bears. Did you guys catch much of the action?
Yeah, I did. I watched the entire game from start to finish. Watched some of the pregame programming, which was cool and very unique to the NFL that they can make such a big production out of their events. The game was pretty much underwhelming for the most part, but football was back on TV, and I haven't watched as much football the last couple of years after the Chargers left town. I feel like this year maybe I'll break back into watching a lot more football because it used to be such a big part of my routine in the fall, and last night was a good start. It was still just exciting to see the teams out there and the crowd all hyped up, and it was a good time.
Sure. I didn't catch much of it. I was actually working, but was sneakily seeing some of the action on an iPad. I had Devontae Adams for fantasy purposes, and I think he reeled in maybe 4 catches for 36 or something like that. But it seemed like it was, obviously a very defensive-minded game. Thomas, did you see much of the game at all?
Yeah, I saw pretty much all of it. I caught from about the late end of the first quarter to the end, and obviously the game wasn't good, but just to have it back and I watched a little bit of the pregame show, and I thought that was pretty good. They kind of highlighted the 100th season, so that was kind of cool, and it's just good, like you said, Andy, good to have it back, and I'm looking forward to the season because there's really just so much questions that need to be answered, and the player movement in the off season really haven't answered any of my own personal questions with like who's going to actually be a contender and a pretender this year.
Sure.
One thing that comes to mind when you say what you were just saying there, Thomas, what do you guys think about the fact that players just don't play in the preseason anymore? A lot of the the primary players on these teams, this is their first action in regular season games. It used to be unheard of, but now it's kind of the norm for starting quarterbacks don't play. Big-time players just don't get any run in the preseason. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's really too surprising. You always look forward to maybe that third game of the preseason where your starting offense would play at least a quarter, maybe a half of the game. But I think as a former Chargers fan, we really saw it with LT as when he was the best back in the league. He really didn't play in the preseason at all, which you didn't mind because you knew what he was going to do in the regular season. So I really don't mind it at all. It does cheat out on the fans that have the season tickets.
Yeah,
and
that's brutal.
Have 2 preseason home games that they pay for and don't really see much. So again, it's not really surprising to me. I think it is unfortunate for the fans to some degree.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think you really saw it, both quarterbacks, because they looked not in sync at all with the receivers or even with the game plan, so to speak. Rodgers, except for that one drive, I thought he was really inconsistent. And Trubisky just had a horrible night. And, I thought the Bears fans, they were always restless to begin with, but they were he was getting booed, I think, after the third series, if I'm not mistaken. And
the most exciting part about the game for the Bears fans was the kicker making a kick. And when that's the most exciting thing you have all season, that's pretty brutal, at least all game.
Sure. And then he kicked it out of bounds
for a
penalty.
Followed up with a OB kick. That was rough.
So outside of that game last night, a couple other big storylines with the NFL heading into the start of the season. Ezekiel Elliott getting his mega deal with Dallas. But really the big story starting yesterday, breaking news, was that Antonio Brown, wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders, they're still in Oakland for this year, he gets in some beef with general manager Mike Mayock. Some question as to whether he might play in the first game for the Raiders or even at all in a Raiders jersey. We're finding out today that it sounds like he is going to end up playing. So a whirlwind of drama for our man AB.
Yeah, it's the news cycle is very quick these days, and I feel like the Antonio Brown stories, he's had stories for an entire season over the last couple of weeks. And yeah, the drama has been real around the Raiders camp all preseason long, and just like you said, the last 24 hours, a total whirlwind. Went from wondering if he would ever play for the Raiders to now it looks like he's going to play Monday night. And then John Gruden and Mike Mayock doing this like good cop, bad cop thing where Gruden is sticking up for the player, like, oh no, he's here doing his thing. And then Mayock is like his enforcer. So I just wonder what kind of message that sends to the players. Like, who is making the decisions? What's, can they believe what Gruden is feeding them? And yeah, there's never not drama going around with the Raiders. They seem to, I don't know if it's just the brand or what, but drama follows that franchise around.
Commitment to drama.
I want to make a Raiders parody shirt that has Antonio Brown's face on the like Raiders shield and says commitment to drama. Oh, that's good, Andy.
I love it. Thomas, your perspective on this situation.
I just think there's more to the story than it's being reported right now. It's been always. I think there's more problems with his foot than anybody's letting on right now, because it went from frostbite on the bottom of his feet due to that thing he had in Germany. Then it was the helmet, and then it was let me go online and try to buy a 1980 helmet from a high school team in Alameda, and then it turns into I finally found a helmet. And then, I didn't like the helmet. And then, I got it rejected by the NFL. How dare they? I'll just walk out of camp. And now it's back to being challenged by Mayock. I mean, there's so many different avenues they go with, but the bottom line is the story. Is he healthy? Because the one thing I found out from Hard Knocks, I think it was in episode 3, was he worked out. And then he said to one of the coaches after he did his initial workout with Carr, I felt good. But then I felt something in the bottom of my feet towards the end of the workout. And I was like, well, that means that you're not healthy. So are you masking all this because you're still not healthy because of the frostbite? That's, to me, is like where the story is. And they have to answer that for me before anything else, because I honestly don't believe it's about the helmet. I think the helmet's the most stupid thing I think we can argue about, because playing football, I was given a helmet, and yet it had to fit my head. But after that, once it fit all the specifications, we never talked about my helmet ever again until I had to hand it back in at the end of the season.
Yep.
Yeah. We touched on AB a few weeks ago, and we kind of questioned whether Oakland was going to be a greener pasture from him. And I had my doubts because of the bridges that he burned in Pittsburgh and going to an uncertain franchise with the Raiders. And yeah, absolutely nothing but drama this year. I did pick him on one of my fantasy teams, so I'm pulling for him in that regard.
You're sweating that a little bit.
I just hope for him that he has a few more productive years in his career, at the very least. I mean, he's been the best receiver the last 5 or 6 years, so I just hope that he doesn't continue to get in the way of himself.
Yeah, the numbers are totally undeniable. They've been exceptional. 1,000 yards receiving and over 100 receptions in 6 of the last 7 years, and leading the league almost every year. You just know that guy's a shoo-in for 1,000 yards and 100 receptions. And it's always different when a receiver changes quarterbacks, though, as well.
Yeah.
He and Ben Roethlisberger's connection, even though it seemed like they kind of couldn't stand each other, they were a really good duo, quarterback to receiver duo. So we'll see if Derek Carr can have that same kind of connection. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Sure.
How much of the dysfunction you think affected the team? Because the time I saw the kind of crumbling of the Steelers was in that playoff game against the Jaguars. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but I was thoroughly shocked that the Jaguars just dominated the Steelers.
Yep. And
really Roethlisberger had to come back in that game, quite frankly, and try to throw them back into a victory. And he almost came close. But, I just think we're not there in the locker room, but that to me is where the biggest problem with Antonio Brown is inside the locker room. Does he have the respect of his teammates? And I just don't know if he did any more in Pittsburgh. because of some of the antics. Remember when he filmed the playoff celebration and he got Tomlin's comments about, I think it was the Chiefs and how he thought they were an inferior opponent. Kind of got him. He caught some flack for that, and I think stuff like that is like, you know, when you try to self-promote yourself on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, I think other players are like, you know, are you part of this family or are you part of your own family? And I think that's where dysfunctions kind of occurs.
Yeah, I think time will tell for AB with that. Apparently, though, today, part of the reason why he will be playing in Week 1 for the Raiders is that he gave an emotional speech in the locker room to his teammates, and that the other captains on the team are steadily behind him. So we'll see.
I tend to think that it's the NFL, and the reason he's playing is because of what we talked about before, those numbers that are undeniable. I don't know if there's any league where numbers mean more and off-the-field actions, behavior, anything is less of a factor. Like, bad behavior off the court or off the field in other sports tends to be taken a little more seriously, and in the NFL it's kind of like, hey, if the guy can play, get him on the field. Unless there's a video of the crazy thing that he did, and they're pretty much going unscathed. I don't know. It just seems like an NFL
because
thing.
You think about it. When a player gets caught for steroids, it's like, okay, take a 4-week vacation, and we'll catch you in November. But in baseball, it's like, you know, they have to wear the scarlet letter for the remainder of their career. It's like, well, he's a good home run hitter, but he did get caught taking steroids.
Yeah.
But in football, it's just blown by. It's almost expected. I mean, look at these announcers. They lose these offensive linemen that go on ESPN and the NFL Network. They start weighing like close to 300 pounds, and then by the end of the season, they're down to 220. And it's like, oh, geez, you were on a terrific diet. Yeah, it's just called not taking any supplements anymore. And I got down to my normal body size.
Good discussion there, gents. So I mentioned Ezekiel Elliott, the other big name and storyline from this week. He finally inks a mega deal with the Dallas Cowboys. 6 years, $90 million, if I'm not mistaken. So he, of course, held out the entire preseason, was looking for that contract where they were going to pay him as the best back in the league, and that's what he got.
And that's what he is. I'd say probably the most important back in the league, if not the best. There are some other, there's the Saquon Barkleys of the world who had an amazing year last year, Christian McCaffrey, guys who can really do a lot. But you're talking about a team in Dallas that is a legitimate Super Bowl aspiration team. They have a franchise quarterback. They've got a really good playmaking wide receiver. They've got an awesome defense. And they have one of the best running backs in the league. That's a super complete team. And they're in a division that has one other legitimate Super Bowl contending team and then a couple of teams that aren't great. I mean, the table is set for Dallas to make a little run here over the next few years like they've been doing the last couple. And it would just be, I think, a total misstep if they hadn't taken care of Zeke and gotten him on the field. So I'm glad that got handled just for the sake of that franchise and what they have set up and what they could possibly do moving forward.
We were talking about Ezekiel Elliott, running back for the Dallas Cowboys, and the new deal that he got. Thomas, as somebody that follows the NFL quite heavily, what did you think of the deal for Zeke?
Yeah, just to reiterate, I never really thought he was going to be an extended holdout with him. I just think that it's the Cowboys' time. I think they're a definite Super Bowl contender. They have the defense in place. And, no question about it, he's the best pure running back in the league right now. And with Dak Prescott, he has to step it up as a quarterback. I think it'll be a little bit more consistent, get a little bit more accurate. And if he does those things, I think it's going to come down between them and the Eagles. I said it before on this show, and I'll stand by it. I think those two teams are going to meet in the NFC title game if they're healthy, because I clearly think they're a better team. I think the other teams in the NFC, I think the Rams are going to have a Super Bowl hangover because it happens to every team. And I just think something's going to happen with the Saints. I love Drew Brees, but that last 4 weeks of the season, I was writing an article about their preseason outlook, and I was really shocked by how by the final 4 weeks of last season, his numbers went down drastically, and they became a one-dimensional football team. And boy, age kind of creeps up on these football players fast. I mean, we saw it with Peyton Manning, and I just hope, I'm hoping it's not with Drew Brees, but my writer's instinct says that age has creeped up to him, and I'm a little leery of the Saints. And I just think it's the Cowboys' time, because if they don't contend this year, I don't see it how, because I don't see Jones paying Prescott or Amari Cooper big money if they don't produce this year.
Good points there, Thomas. Getting back to Zeke, though, real quickly, he holds out. Melvin Gordon from the Chargers holds out. Le'Veon Bell last year holds out for the entire season. Guy hasn't played for a year and a half, hasn't played a down of football. But it looks like these running backs are trying to make a bit of a statement to the NFL, to where they want a little bit more power going into the next CBA. They're hoping the players get a little bit bigger piece of the pie. It's sort of looking like they're trying to do what some of the players in the NBA have done, to where they have a little bit more leeway, to where they have more command of their contracts. Do you see that at all, Brian?
Well, I mean, NBA players are in complete control. But the thing that's interesting, I heard Terrell Davis earlier this week talking about the running back situation and why these running backs are holding out. And he was talking about the difference in rookie contracts for running backs versus other position players, because running backs get worn down so hard, and they're getting the same contracts that these other position players are getting. But then 5-6 years down the road, when they're eligible for a new contract, their body is completely worn down. They're almost 30 years old, and as a running back, that's downhill. So they're not in their prime when they come up for their contract. Quarterbacks are hitting their prime and hitting their stride. And he was just saying that something needs to be done about that position, where maybe players at that position are paid a more premium early in their career when they're actually putting up the big numbers. So you see a guy like a Melvin Gordon who knows he's just going to be the workhorse, getting worn down by the time he comes up for his contract. He's got 5 seasons of getting beat up on him. And Le'Veon Bell sat out a year, probably extended his career by another, got paid. Zeke got his money. I mean, they're trying to take the power back, like you said, and I think they have good reason for it, because they are grossly underpaid for what they do.
Love it. Well, it's time to talk about our favorite storyline from this last week, as it relates to the connection.
Oh, baby.
We've got our Survivor League up and running. It is a viable production now. So we started with the intention of getting 50 of our friends and family to join our Survivor League $20 buy-in to get a pot of $1,000. Well, the campaign worked, and we're up to about 63 or 64 right now. So we're going to have a pot around $1,250, $1,300, and I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Until I lose week one, and the excitement will dwindle.
So we're a couple days away from NFL Sunday. So you gotta make your pick. A few options out there on the table. What do you think, Brian?
There are quite a few. So I think what we got to do is we got to pick. We can't just say who our pick is, because people out there, especially Finbar and Dan, who are watching, Shauna. You guys are probably going to steal our picks, because I know how they work. So let's go with 3 locks. Like 3. If we had to pick 3 teams that are guaranteed to win this week in our minds, who are your 3 locks? Start with you, Andy.
This goes mostly by the spread, but I think there's plenty of logical reason behind it. Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
At home, we know what playing in Seattle is like for the road team. And then they're playing the Bungles, who their franchise is always in question. First-year coach for them, so I think the Seahawks are a lock. My number 2 lock is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
Again, I mentioned it last week. I don't really like the divisional games, but you're at home in Philadelphia. You got a healthy Carson Wentz. You're going up against Case Keenum as the starter for the Redskins. I think that looks really good for the Eagles. And after that, there's a little bit of a question mark, but I got to go with our favorite team, the Los Angeles Chargers, at home against the Colts.
But it's a smart pick.
Yeah. So those are my 3 locks: Chargers, Eagles, and Seahawks.
Okay. I've got 2 of those 3 as locks, being the Seahawks at home against the Bengals and then the Eagles at home against Washington. My other lock is a road team, the Baltimore Ravens at Miami. The Dolphins, I know people think they're going to be improved. They always think they're going to be improved. They're never improved. Baltimore is very strong. They're going to go down there and impose their will on the road at Miami. And, yeah, that's my third team. I think the Ravens are a lock this week. Thomas.
Yeah, I have those teams, and I'll give you another one. I think the Cowboys are gonna cover against the Giants. I just think it's it's a home game from them, and I just think that they want to flex their muscles this week and kind of set the tone for their season. I don't think Elliott is going to be a difference. I think you're going to be shocked. You'll see him maybe with 15 carries this year, maybe 20 the most. But I think you're going to see the explosion of Tony Pollard into that lineup, and I think that's where they kind of set themselves apart from the other teams in the NFC, because now they're going to have kind of like that two back system there, and I think he's going to pick up some big yardage.
So Thomas goes another division game. Wow, 2 of his 3 are divisional games. He thinks that NFC East is very top-heavy, clearly.
Yeah, well, yeah, you mentioned it. 2 Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the Ravens
bottom.
are just playing a community college team, right? The Miami Dolphins.
That's right. It's just about.
I looked at the Super Bowl, basically percentage chances for each team. I think the Chiefs led at like 18% down the list, and the Dolphins have a 0.0% chance of winning the Super Bowl, according to the Vegas odds or whatever they were.
So
All right,
what about we gotta pick the game that you want to absolutely stay away from. You're not going to pick either one of these teams for whatever reason. What's a game that you are going to avoid like the plague? We're going to call it the plague game. What's your plague game? A game you're avoiding at all costs.
Presented by Guinness. My plague game.
The implications. Oh Lord, Andy, your plague game.
My plague game. So I'm going to go against my comrade Thomas here. I'm going to say that Cowboys-Giants game is a plague game. Part of it's personal because I picked the Cowboys in a Survivor League last year, and they lost at home against the Titans in like Week 10 when they were heavy favorite coming off a bye. Amari Cooper was new to the team, and they lost by 2 touchdowns. So that has scarred me. So I see a little bit similar workings with this game. Zeke's back, but he hasn't played at all this preseason. There's no reason, in theory, why the Cowboys should lose this game, but, you got a new start for the Giants, Saquon Barkley. That's my play game. I don't have much logical reason, but it's in my heart.
I'd be upset, too, if Week 10 Cowboys lose at home to the Titans, and you made it all the way through 10 weeks of a Survivor pool, and then that's brutal.
And I feel no matter how bad the Giants are, the games with them and the Cowboys are always within a touchdown. And so that's why I'm not touching that game this week.
That's kind of the similar thing. Finbar and I were talking about that Eagles-Redskins game. On paper, it looks like major Eagles, and that's a game that, like I said, is a lock, but those NFC East teams can be some drag them out.
That's why the Survivor thing first
I know.
week, it gets me nervous.
Thomas, what's your plague?
My plague is the Chargers.
Ooh.
There is no way I would take the Chargers over the Colts because it's so Chargers of them. They'll lose a game that they're supposed to win.
Yep.
The Colts have everybody saying, well, who's going to play quarterback for the Colts? But everybody forgets that the Colts probably have the best young offensive line in the NFL, and they have a decent running back in Marlon Mack. All Jacoby Brissett has to do is complete about 55% of his passes in the first week, and it's going to be humid in Carson this weekend. I just think they have to just stay on the field, grind the football out, tire that defense. The secondary's questionable. And they lost a big-time player in Derwin James. I just think if they do that, I think they're going to eke out a game. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy, but I could see the Colts winning on an Adam Vinatieri 45-yarder, 17-14.
45-yarder on his 80th birthday? Yeah. Well, Thomas, you're very convincing because that's also my plague game. But my reasoning had nothing to do with on the field stuff. You're out here talking about what Jacoby Brissett can do and blah blah blah. And now I'm like, before I was going to be like, well, the Chargers will be without a left tackle and Derwin James, and just trying to talk myself into it. When in reality, the reason the Chargers are my play game this week is because I've never done a survivor pool before, and I'm absolutely not putting the first week of my survivor existence in the hand of the freaking Chargers, because that's what they do. They already ripped out my heart so hard 2.5 years ago that I can't give them the opportunity to do it again. I'm not saying I won't ever pick them, but I'm definitely not picking them week 1. I'm going to lose with somebody else if I'm going to lose in week 1. It's absolutely not going to be the Chargers. So that's my play game. My one upset this week is a Monday night game. Texans at Saints. The Texans are a 7-point dog at New Orleans. And I think they're going to go in and win. Like you said, again, very persuasive with your talk on Drew Brees and kind of the decline of the Saints this year. Houston sees an opportunity with Andrew Luck being gone in Indianapolis to really seize control of that division early in the season. I think they go into New Orleans. I think Deshaun Watson puts up big numbers. They can fill in that running back position. I still think Houston has a very dynamic squad, and I think they're going to go in and win in New Orleans.
Yeah. It's going to be my dog is the other Monday night game. I think the Broncos are going to walk into Oakland and just steamroll the Raiders. I just think all this drama is really going to cause a problem this week. And, it's all great that Antonio Brown's going to play in the game, but he hasn't practiced with his team. I don't even know what type of chemistry he has with David Carr. I mean, not David Carr. Sorry about that. Derek Carr. And, I just think Philip Lindsay is going to do a number. He's a pretty efficient running back. I think their defense is going to surprise a lot of teams, and I think they'll just go in there and win pretty easily.
AB.
Baltimore wasn't an underdog, but I did like them on the road. I guess I'll go with the Titans on the road against Cleveland. All this hype with Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland is
at home.
Captains of the hype train right now. I hate it.
And so until I see otherwise, and they're a 5.5 favorite.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the dog on the road with the Tennessee Titans.
I like it. All right, so we got Titans on the road, we got Broncos on the road, and we got Texans on the road.
Good stuff, guys.
Dan Stewart thinks he's got Saddleback over Canyon College. That's his big upset pick of the weekend.
Fantastic stuff.
One little thing I did want to make some light of, because we were talking about helmets and Antonio Brown and all that stuff. You guys see what Aaron Rodgers did? Donating. He bought helmets for 3 Chico area high school football teams. I believe it was Pleasant Valley, Chico, and then Paradise, where like 90% of the team lost their homes in the fires last year. He bought them the newest, most technologically advanced helmets that there are, and he bought them for the entire team of all those 3 teams. It happened kind of like under the radar, but those are the kind of things that shouldn't just get swept under the rug. They should be exclaimed and yelled from the rooftops.
Yeah,
so,
with everything else that we've seen this week with the NFL.
Yeah, a little positive note from some NFL stuff. So
absolutely,
that's really great.
Again, our Survivor League is still open. I've reopened the polls since nobody picked the Bears or Packers last night, so we still got some room for you. I feel like this league is like Washington politics. Like we've got a whole bunch of our families involved.
Yep.
Brothers, sisters, parents. We've got a few couples involved, so there's some opportunity for collusion, which, hey, I'm not totally against with the Survivor League. I've got 2 nephews co-managing a team, so we've got some underage gambling going on. There's a lot of drama with our Survivor League. My favorite one, I didn't see that your dad signed up until last night or this morning. Daddy-O.
Yep,
the team
Daddy-O. That's what my sister Shauna, who's actually watching right now, calls my dad. And Shauna and Nikki, both my sisters are in. My dad's in. My fiance's in. So it's a family affair. If any of them pick the Chargers, then they deserve to lose. So my family of former Chargers season ticket holders for like ever. They can't get heartbroken again. I won't let it happen.
Yeah.
And no collusion among the Conroy name, even though there's 2 new ones.
Yeah, there's
that I
like
never even heard of.
15 Conroys in the league. Most of them don't even know each other. Everybody we know is named Conroy.
All right, Brian, you were telling us somebody to keep our eye on with our Survivor League.
Yeah, I was going to say keep an eye. The username on there is Arcon. His name's Ryan Conroy. No relation to Thomas, but he
That you know of.
That I know of. That's true. I mean, somewhere down the line, right? But he's been very good in all the fantasy leagues we've been in together, and he just he's my sleeper. He knows a lot. He'll be under the radar and just fly through, and all of a sudden, week 10, we'll see him, and he'll still be in the thing. So that's my pick. Keep an eye out.
I love
You've
it.
been warned.
So I was talking about how there's a few political things at stake or going on with this league. So I, as the administrator, I have some serious powers with this thing. So I didn't realize it until I was adding a second team for my brother so that his nephew or his sons, my nephews, can have a team. And I realized I can go into anybody's account and change their pick for the week. So I can totally go Trump on you.
And we got a lot of money at stake, Andy. That's a lot of pressure. What are you going to do
so
here?
if, I could change your pick to the Chargers 2 minutes before kickoff this Sunday. No,
And then
I won't do that.
And then the Seahawks will lose and the Chargers will win, and I'll be like, yeah, I picked them all along.
No,
I thought it was
won't
weird
do
I had the
that.
Dolphins this week.
He's like, I think you'll take. I like my Titans pick a lot.
No, I'm good
Everyone
with
picks
that.
them.
Hey, if you haven't paid, by the way, pay me $20 on
Yeah.
Venmo or PayPal. I think we've got most of them in there, but just do that if you're listening.
It's going to be fun, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Thanks
Big-
for setting
yeah.
it up,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, big
Yeah,
pot. Thanks
definitely.
for rallying the troops here
Yeah.
to get over 50. And I think it was like 3 days ago there was like 25.
Yeah.
So I was having my doubts. I was like, oh, maybe we can get at least around 40 or so, and I'd be happy with an $800 pot. And then this last 2 days, just people were coming in, so that was fun to watch.
Yep. Very exciting.
Okay, that just about wraps it up. We haven't even touched on our hometown San Diego Padres.
No.
So in 2 minutes or less, are you paying any attention to them at all this last month of the season?
A little bit, but not a ton. A lot of my attention is going to be towards football from here on out. I'd like to see what some of the young kids do, but you also can't take too much stock in what September numbers are for the young players. It's just good that they're getting up and getting some experience, so a little bit of fun to watch there.
I want to see Cal Control end on a good note. 'Cause
Yep.
I really think that he's going to be part of the rotation. I get in arguments on all the time about he should be in the bullpen, but I'm like, I think this guy had to make to be a pretty good starting pitcher. I'm not telling you an ace, but I think he can be dependable as definitely a 3 and hopefully a 2, but I think definitely a 3 for the moving forward.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has a future. We talked earlier before we went on air about a reliever of the future for the Padres and Andres Munoz.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
he
baby.
can do with a fastball that hits triple digits, tails away, and then a dirty slider that you don't
Yeah.
normally see with a youngster at 20 years of age.
Nobody
So
can hit that thing.
I want to continue to see his growth. Like you said, Brian, it's cool to see some of the younger guys get some action and, hopefully give us an eye of what they can do in the future. Thomas, you texted us yesterday about big news in baseball. A lot of people believing that Steven Strasburg, starting pitcher for the Nationals, will likely opt out and go towards free agency next year. We're all wishing for a San Diego homecoming from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, J.P. Morosi of MLB Network reported it yesterday that it's widely speculated among, I guess, executives that Strasburg's going to opt out of his contract with 4 years, $100 million remaining, and go
Wow.
on the open market. And it always just goes back to one time when I was broadcasting one of the CIF San Diego baseball championships, and I was just sitting in the where they were serving the food, and I don't know who he was, but I just assumed he was an official. We were just talking about the San Diego pro players that were playing in the league, and this gentleman said to me, he goes, that Strasburg is such a homebody. I can't believe how well he's doing in Washington. I know he just wants to come back to San Diego. Every time I talk to him, he's saying, I'm trying to find a way to get back here. And then I was just sitting there, I was like, oh, okay. And I never took nothing of it. But when I read that yesterday, I was like, wow.
He's coming, baby.
Could that little innocent comment actually come to fruition? And that's when I immediately sent it out to you guys and sent it out to others. And that was the hottest thing besides the football game last night was the Strasburg as the number one, already planning our rotation for next season. Can he supplant Paddock?
Even that article you sent us, the last line was, or does he want to be closer to San Diego? It didn't mention the Padres at all. It just said, or does he want to go closer? So clearly people are talking San Diego with him. That would be pretty fun.
It's certainly a big offseason for us to look forward to. You know, we're wanting to gain that number one pitcher, number two pitcher, and see how Tatis progresses after his injury. So I think we were all taken aback by the signing of Machado this last offseason. So we obviously won't see something like that, but still a lot of storylines this offseason. So fun offseason, but there's football, which will carry us through the next few months.
And we got a big Aztecs game this weekend against UCLA. Thomas, you're going, but we'll see what happens. Last week was not the start that they wanted against Weber State. The offense didn't look great, but it's the first time ever doing the spread. They still got the win. That's really all that matters at the end of the day in college football. But that's something I'm looking forward to tomorrow afternoon.
Love it.
At the Rose Bowl, baby, the Aztecs. Woo-wee.
Big stuff right there. I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for joining me here today. Thanks for joining the Survivor pool. It's going to be a lot of fun this football season. Episode number 8 in the books. We'll see you later.